Hello, this is Falterfire. We are now on version 4520, which is the first beta test version that has fatigue in it. So I figured I would record a video seeing how my boy Caitan is able to handle that. So fatigue is a new mechanic. The way it works is after you have drawn 5 cards in one turn, you will get 1 stack of fatigue. And then every non-mana card you draw while you have fatigue will cost 1 more for each fatigue stack you have. And the fatigue will go away at end of turn, and the cards will the cost increase is only until end of turn as well. So it's basically an attempt to slow me down from comboing off and drawing and playing infinity cards in one turn, every fight, forever. So we're going to go ahead and buy everything. We're going to be playing Caitan, the Burning Stuntman deck. I'm going to swap out these battle postures for introspections, just due to things I've discovered while playing the deck. Actually, we're going to try that. So Runic Study was changed. Runic Study previously cost 3 mana, and it always gave you Wits 1. Now, it only costs 2 mana, and although upgraded it does go up to 3. But this means that we now have a way to just generically draw cards in Caitan again. This is not the only card that changed, but I think it's the only one we're running that was changed in ways other than like spelling and grammar fixes. I think everything else in our list is the same. This is the same Burning Stuntman deck that you've seen me play. If you watched my first video, I have tweaked it slightly, but it is by and large the same overall deck. One of the other changes though is increasing mana is now a lot more tempting because it is now gain 3 base instead of gain 2 base. So I think I'm probably going to try that. Heroic Recovery I haven't been as happy with. I think that it has been causing me problems by shuffling back in my exhaustions. Because in order to get an exhaustion, all my exhaustions are in my discard. It will shuffle them in, and then that means that my subsequent draws are more likely to hit exhaustions because... Oh, the other change. I now have 2 Strenuous Strikes, which means literally half of the cards in my starting deck are generating exhaustions now, which is the reason why it's more important than ever that I not shuffle those in until I'm ready. So, with that in mind, let's go. So, like I said, fatigue only kicks in once you have drawn 5 cards. And it doesn't apply to the 5th card drawn. It applies to the card after. It doesn't apply when you create cards. That doesn't uptick it either. So, for example, if I have done nonsense with Spell Slash and creating a bunch of cards that way, creating cards off of Overflow, that won't affect anything as far as increasing my fatigue. However, once I have fatigue, created cards will cost more. So that's an important thing for me to keep in mind. So these first fights should be fairly straightforward because we are still on Caitan, which means that we just get to do dumb, unfair things all day, every day. Let's do that and get some mana. And then next turn, we will should have plenty of mana to work with. And so now we can cast Runic Focus. There we go. Alright, so time to start the engine as usual. We want 2 things, mana and card draw. We already have, we do eventually want more damage, but we have very good damage in our starting deck, so it is less important. Let's do this first. Okay. I'm trying to think what I want least here. I think the answer is one of my mana cards, but that could end up coming back to bite us. So we'll see. So one of the notes here is that Runic Study is going to trip fatigue. So it's important that I finish creating cards before I play my Runic Focus, because now you can see I have 1 stack of fatigue, and that means that if I were to create cards after this point, or if I were to use this, the cards that I drew would be more expensive. So, like, see, this is a spell slash that now costs 4 mana instead of 3. So that's just something that I have to be careful with. It would be incredibly greedy to keep drawing cards, but I am incredibly greedy. So this does also make Pirate Hook a little bit worse, but you know, I'm not here to not go for it. So this is a very sketchy end. This does make Lucky Die much worse. Lucky Die already was, of the card draw options, one of my least favorite. We're going to get rid of that. We're going to double up on Strenuous Strikes. Okay, so we are now at exactly 5, which means that future cards we draw again will give us the fatigue, but any cards that we are already holding will be fine. But you can see, like, these treasures and this Magic Blade were all affected by that. But I am not here to let a petty thing like my things costing more mana slow me down. But it does mean that it is that much more important that I keep taking mana cards as much as possible. I keep upgrading my mana cards when it's a reasonable choice to do so. And if I don't, because if I don't, it is that much easier for me to run out of gas. Let's pitch that. Yeah, I don't like the Lucky Die at all now. That may be an overreaction from me, but I just do not like, because it was already, I was always bad at finding windows to use it, and this just makes it that much more awkward. Okay. I think that's 4 cards drawn. Yep. This does make learning how to count that much more important. Because failure to do math properly is punished a lot harder now. And one of the things that I feel like will come at some point, but that isn't in yet, is that I assume at some point we will get a meter that will tell us how much, how close we are to fatigue, because definitely one of the things that's true right now is you do just have to remember what you've already, how many cards you've already drawn, so that you don't fatigue yourself when you're not ready for it. So questions, do we go after the Frost Elements? Do we go after the Forest Guardian? I don't think I really love either of the cards. I would rather go to the event, though, I think. So that's where we're going to go. So we're going to play this, partially because we are... So one of the other fun things with treasures now is... treasures have always been random, but now you've got to ask yourself, do you feel lucky? Because if you get... if we draw 3 cards there, we would have triggered our... we would have triggered fatigue, because this will trigger fatigue, and now... and just possibly get more than 1 fatigue stack. So that's another thing to keep in mind. But we are doing fine so far. And there is a Power Blast, which we will take. Let's draw 3. Yeah, I haven't used Lucky Die at all yet. I should be paying more attention to when I want to do that. I think it's probably would have been correct to have used it at least once by this point. But at the same time, there's that whole thing where, you know, when you're winning this hard, how do you know that you need... So this we will take over the Adept. So another very important note, Purity, you can't reduce fatigue. You cannot cleanse it off of you with a cleansing shield or with a Dispel Magic, but Purity will block fatigue. This means that this trinket we just picked up, as long as we have it, that will completely negate, most likely, will completely negate any problems we might have had with fatigue for the duration of the run. But the downside is, because we're Caitan, that means we will not be getting that thing we want. We will not be getting Vengeance until we run out of whatever stacks. So that's an important aspect of this. So I'm going to go ahead and use that. I want to burn... I wanted to burn my other stack of Purity so that when we play Power Blast, we'll be fine. I think we pitch the Strenuous Focus or the Strenuous Strike. I'm going to do that. So let's just do that, which means we can now do this, which because we were on fire, we got the extra stack of Vengeance. Oh, I should have gotten that kill before I picked up that fatigue stack. Okay, so we still use out there, like that trinket we picked up, absolutely critical to letting us go off. I think I like so Mana Surge is now in the deck again because I think that it is handy when we are drawing non-mana, which we don't have a ton of right now, but still it's just kind of handy. I do not think, the other thing with this is it can be doubled by doubling Spyglass or with a Duplication Tome. And, you know, there's a very good chance I'll end up with one or both of those by the end of the run. The Royal Coffers, I think, is now much, much worse. The fact that treasures can treasure plus. The fact that you don't know if treasures are going to trigger fatigue or not is a very important thing to consider when deciding if you want to take a treasure or not. We'll upgrade Power Blast. We haven't picked up any more strikes yet, so I don't want to replace the strenuous. So I don't have anything to replace the strenuous strikes with yet. I have been very aggressive on mana so far. We will try and hit that elite. The only other elite on so this is a very elite light map. We only have 2 elites, and they are. It is impossible to path through both. So we are going to go. I think we'll start here. Start by drawing 2 mana cards. Draw 3 more other cards, which will take away one of those stacks. We will discard. I think the Vengeful Will is probably the weakest of them. Let's play that, which will then enable us to play Runic Study. And then we can do this. Again, just trying to burn our Purity stacks on fatigue where we can. Runic Focus is a maybe, Mystic Ritual is a maybe, Increasing Visions is a maybe, these are all maybes. I think we're doing pretty good on mana. I think we will take the Mystic Ritual. Because we now have 1 Mystic Ritual, we don't really need to fight more Arcane Wisps. There's just a 0% chance that we want additional Mystic Rituals once we already have 1. I thought it's not quite 0%, but it's a very low percent chance that that additional mystic rituals are what we want. And yeah, we just keep navigating these fights the same way we have been. Just beating things up and taking their lunch money. We'll take a careless strike. Start with that. I should have bothered with that until I had the, I was thinking. Yeah, Caitan is still a fair character who does fair things, and he does them fairly, which is pretty handy for us, because we love doing fair things fairly. We'll take that. We don't have any ways to induce vulnerable right now, but could be handy eventually. Alright, this fight could be trickier. We will see. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. Yeah, this is kind of the awkward position we can end up in where 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, where I want to draw cards, but I want to do so again before we trip that. So I could end up discarding this. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, we'll just play that and then draw there. Discard the Runic Study because I don't think we're going to draw more after that. Unfortunately, this does mean we don't have as much mana as I would like. We should still largely be fine. We are, I think, probably going to just win by stoking. Yeah, that'll be lethal. Stoke always lies to you about how much damage it's going to do because its damage will always be increased by the fact that the enemy will be wording. So Elemental Fury isn't as bad as it normally might be because the enemy will usually be on fire. I don't think we really want another spell. Because we don't have any ways to get powerful and we already passed up the +1 powerful artifact, that makes Empower a whole lot weaker. Empower can up our number of purity stacks, but we don't love that necessarily. I'm probably going to just cut that. Okay, so we got Arcane Belt, which I haven't actually seen in a while. It's been a few runs since I've seen Arcane Belt, and it is still... Bag of Tools is incredibly good. Arcane Belt is also busted, though. So we'll take that. And I think we upgrade Stoke the Fire so that it can be even gooder. Even gooderest. Yeah, Vengeful Will, I think we just got the Empower. I don't think we actually want it here. We're going to cut through Fire Dragons, Drakes, you know, the things. And think about this, but Drakes are actually not the easiest thing for us to fight just because of we can have problems with are we going to be able to get through 2 Runic Studies? I think Stoke the Fire is the bad card here. Because it's split. So we can have problems with Drakes because they do have a bunch of evade that we aren't always going to be great at dealing with. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, we can play Runic Study. Yeah, and again, like all these cards that we're creating do not count against our fatigue, which is incredibly handy for us. If they did, we would be in trouble. So now we're out of the thing that was keeping us safe from fatigue. Now we are out of purity, which means that we will actually get fatigued here in a moment, soon, any moment now. But again, the card that the first card you draw that triggers you having your first stack of fatigue does not itself get cost increased. It's the first after. So you will, if you're drawing cards like one at a time, you will get a warning that you are about to be in the danger zone. Once again, we're gonna double that. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. Mana surge, more mana. We can strenuous strike. We can do some damage. We are now out of purity, so we are just gonna do damage the old-fashioned way. There we go. I think the fact that we were able to turn one a quartet of drakes twice is a pretty good sign that things are going fine. What do we discard? We discard Careless Strike. We will Spell slash plus. We may actually just settle for not killing everything this turn. Weird as that, crazy as that is, just do as much as we can, except that we are going to have to burn up our purity on oh, I forget that we get, that's actually going to help. Never mind. Things may everything may be fine. False alarm, everybody. We are in fact going to be able to break the game. Oh, we do have our first stack of fatigue. I wasn't paying attention. But there's still a turn one win. So yeah, Caitan is... Okay, so it's hard to say exactly how much of this is Caitan being fair, because how much of this is actually fair, because we are able to get those purity stacks that are just a large part of how we're able to do this nonsense. I do think we actually don't want the Careless Strike, because we are trying to carefully preserve these purity stacks until we do not need them anymore. Of course, another complication with this character specifically, against this guy specifically, is every time is that we might also end up accidentally burning purity stacks on the lightning barrier. So Yeah, I don't think there's anything we can do to avoid that, really. So we may have to give up on drawing cards for this turn. Unfortunately. I should have done that first, since we are now... If we are giving up on drawing cards... For the most part. That's not going to be lethal. Let's see how many more cards we can draw. So when I said we were done drawing cards, obviously I didn't mean we were done drawing cards. Like, you know that. We are now up to 2 stacks of fatigue. It is actively quite expensive to be on our nonsense. But regardless of that, are we going to get the kill this turn? I don't know. Yes. So it took us 2 turns. Part of that was like we would have drawn potentially more cards if I hadn't been worried about fatigue. Lightning Communion, we don't have any way to shock anything, and we won't pick up anything in the back half. So I think we take the Lightning Blade, and I think we take the Molten Pauldron. Doesn't actually do much for us, but we don't have any ways to apply vulnerable yet, so I think we're just going to discard. I think we're going to upgrade the other Power Blast, and we're going to remove a Strenuous Strike, or a Strenuous Strike, because we don't have a Lightning Blade. Although keeping X number of strikes is less important now that I'm no longer running the Battle Postures. So going left lets us hit more elites. Okay, yeah, that was hit 4 elites. We can only hit 1 on the right side. So even though I would really love to hit the possibility of hitting Corrupted Font, I think the fact that we hit 3 more elites on this side is way more valuable. That is a large amount of potential value. Let's draw and pitch. What do we not want? Let's pitch that, I guess. Let's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we are going to have to do that before we can. Alright, that's how we get out more damage. And then we can play that into Runic Study. And then this is free regardless. We don't need a reduction to make that free, so we may as well play it. And then let's actually see if we can get this killed, because if we can, that will get us treasures off of our Pirate Hook. Which means, alright, yep, there's our last purity gone. So we now want to play out the rest of this hand before we draw any more cards. And there we go. Man, just look at all this thinking, though, that's required to play this now. All of the thinking. Again, we can't play this until after we are done with drawing cards. Assuming that we want to keep our purity for our vengeance, for our fatigue stacks. Do we think we can hit Runic Study twice? I think no. ideally want to hit with something a little bit harder than quick slash. Okay, so the question is, are we drawing more cards this turn? Yes, because of treasures, of course, duh. Okay, so, but at this point, I don't think we want to keep drawing cards, even though we are probably going to do whatever, so I think we're fine with giving up on avoiding purity stacks. Giving up on keeping our purity stacks. We are fine with going ahead and doing that to ourselves. We still don't have purity stacks quite yet, so that's nice. We are, I think, ultimately going to end up gambling it all on whether or not we can get lucky on a Stoke the Flame against this Jagoff. Hey! We managed to roll the 1 in, 80 chance. I refuse to believe that hidden on enemies is actually 50-50. That just does not match up with my experience. So we managed to roll the 1 in whatever chance is necessary to actually get that hit off. Draw some cards. Draw more cards. Draw more cards. Discard. I think Demonic Greed. Oh, we're going to get plenty of treasures off of these guys once we start killing them. Once we start hitting them, so another thing to keep in mind. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I may actually play this Lightning Blade's my first thing, just to get just to let me because if I didn't do that, I would have had problems with hand size. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, well enough for both the overheats. Oh, but I didn't think I did not account for the treasure. We can get one more. Alright, and there we are now. We are no longer pure. So let's get that set up. We will shock ourselves, which means that it will hurt if we do not get this kill this turn. Just kidding. I forgot that we're totally going to freeze that jerk and that I totally planned around freezing him. So everything's fine. Nothing was ever not fine. Everything's just completely fine and normal and good. This is now also a whole lot worse. It takes away our purity. It potentially draws us cards. But I mean, I'm not a coward, so we're doing it. I don't think we want to cut anything necessarily. We'll cut the Demonic Greed. Again, like, it's just so risky to have anything that can take away our purity stacks when we're relying on purity to let us cheese the fatigue system. Which I'm sure is exactly functioning as intended. I'm sure that when the system was being designed, one day was thinking, hey, it's important to make sure that it can be cheesed with purity using this trinket that gives 3 purity stacks. It was a deliberate choice. Discard. I think just all of those. Alright, so we are now no longer able to. We are no longer pure. and in point of fact are quite tired of this nonsense. But upsides, frozen. And like I said, fatigue does wear off at end of turn, so now that we are no longer, now we've gone through a turn cycle, we are no longer frozen, which is handy. This is another card that like isn't bad now, but is slightly worse. In my specific deck, I still took it. I still think it's fine. But yeah, just it is an interesting. Yeah, we can lose Lucky Die. Spell damage. I think this is more valuable to us than that. What's our spell damage bonus at right now? 60% spell damage? That seems okay. That seems like an okay bonus to have. What do we discard? We discard. I think we're going to want the Stoke the Flame. I think we're going to want the Ice Shard. We'll pitch that. Okay, so let's go and do that actually, I think. Unfortunately, yeah, we're not going to be able to easily deal with Purity here. So we are going to rely instead on just brazening our way through. So I wasn't paying attention. This is one of the things that I was kind of worried about, which is that now our okay, that seems like something we want to do there. Okay, so we're good. The thing is, like, now the overheats cost 1 because we were fatigued, which means that yeah, overheats not being free is of course not the most amazing thing. So the upside to Empower, if we were to have it, is that it could give us another Purity stack, but like navigating those Purity stacks is already a little bit tricky. I don't really want any more of any of this. Whichever one of these I took, I was going to cut, which is going to happen still. I don't think we want that. I think even though the burn does up whatever, I just don't think that I like it enough. So yeah, we're going to cut that, and we're going to upgrade. I think Dig Through Muck is still worth it to be. Well, again, the fact that this draw is just so much more painful. I think we upgrade Mana Font because I want to be able to draw all these cards quickly to get through our fatigue, to get through our whatever stacks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think Stoke the Fire is going to be tricky to get to work here. So I don't really want a Lightning Blade. I think we're just going to do this. Because we just want to clear space in our hand. And will conveniently also just let us freeze those. So this is going to cost us both of our Purity stacks. But okay, so now we don't want to draw anything else because we want to be careful. And again, this is where not having that counter is a bit of a problem. Let's go to those for that. You're now doing a pretty good amount of damage. Lightning Blade is not free. But it does give us this kill? Yeah. We need to stop. This is just a problem. We have made some mistakes. Okay, I'm done. I don't want to take any more. I want to have a lot of mana going into this turn, since we won't have any extra card draw. Okay, we don't need... Okay, so we now have shock. This will be close to lethal at least. Yeah, it's completely lethal. We are good. This again will not help us against fatigue directly, but having more mana is always good. I think I will upgrade that. I think we're good enough on mana that I'm fine upgrading the Runic Study. Draw some mana. Draw some more. Discard. Are we drawing any more cards this turn? If not, then we are absolutely going all in on removing our vengeance stacks. Or on picking up vengeance stacks, which means that I always forget about those treasures. I'll create those before I draw any more cards, though. Okay, there's our first fatigue stack. Let's kill that. So the reason that I'm willing to draw more cards, even though they are incredibly expensive, is that we only need 2 more hits here in order to get that shock, which seemed worth it to me. Well, that was an unfortunate series of draws. We are going to be able to evade both these hits, which helps. But we did take a bit of damage there that we didn't necessarily need to take. We're going to take the introspection. Again, I am here to play, can I get away with just completely ignoring fatigue as much as I want to? Or will there be will my actions have consequences? I thought Runic Study was going to go up in cost when I upgraded it, but I guess I misread a thing. Anyway, it's fine. It's actually good. It's better than fine. Let's get that set up so we can start getting this freeze on. Draw that. Discard the Magic Blade, I think. Draw more cards. Draw more cards. Play that. Draw more cards. Okay, we are now going to take fatigue. So. Eventually, we're eventually taking fatigue. But not yet. Now we are fatigued. Guess I'll do that. And now we have plenty of damage out there, so we are good. Again, we are still taking card draw. We are going to cut the battle ready at this point, though. Oh. I didn't know that was even a possible outcome of that event. But I guess it is. Guess that's just what we're gonna have to use to trigger that. I guess the only that's just kind of awkward that we just only got those as our, we didn't find any of our other damaging cards, which, you know, I guess is a risk when you are doing nonsense on purpose. Okay, so it took us 2 turns, but we get another Ravenous Intent for our troubles, at which point I'm fine with cutting the introspection. And now we're just going to sleep. Gonna increase our maximum mana. We could remove a card, but I think I'm fine with the deck. I just want infinite max mana. Okay, what do I want to remove? If I remove anything here, I think I don't remove anything here. I think I ship it, and I think I just gain a lot of energy, and here we go. All right. So I'd be a little bit surprised if we are able to go the whole distance here. I don't expect that this will be one of those runs where we are able to pick up, I can only see the extra mana there, where I'll be able to go all the way off of the back of on turn 1. And if we don't, I think it will be a fair statement to say that the reason that we won't is because specifically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, that's awkward. It will specifically be because we were hampered by fatigue. So, you know, that's, I guess, a good sign for the mechanic. And obviously, we had a couple major things working in our favor here. We had the incredible advantage of not having to deal with. We effectively got the first several free, because of the fact that we had that one thing. Gonna do that. I'm just gonna get even more burn. Yeah. So yeah, we fatigue actually wasn't a huge factor in us not getting this turn 1 kill. But yeah, the fact that we had the purity trinket, the fact that we had other things working in our favor, the fact that we had sorry, my brain shut off. Purity trinket. No, that was the main thing. Oh, and the cost reduction trinket on the spell also helped, I guess. That was the other thing I was trying to get to that my brain would not let me say out loud. So yeah. We're going to be able to get this freeze here, which is something. We are still taking damage to our own debuffs that we stacked on ourselves. This is going to take us, I think, 3 turns total. Which, you know, not the worst day we've ever had. But also, you know, not the best. We are going to get the other freeze, though, which is nice. So yeah, this is actually going to take us, I guess, 4 turns total, at least. We'll see if we get the kill here. Stoke should do it. Yes, Stoke is just the damage outright. But yeah, so that was... we were substantially slower that run. I don't know how much of that was due to fatigue specifically, but definitely fatigue played a decent part in the decision-making process. And so I would say that it added an additional challenge to how it forced me to play through and think about what I was doing in the run, even though it ultimately did not stop me from breaking the majority of fights in the game. Uh, so obviously, two of the major things that I didn't have going for me this run that I often will try and go for, I did not have Duplication Tome. I did not have Doubling Spyglass. I did have the Book of Draw Me Cards. I had the Mana Crystal. I had Arcane Belt. So those are all things that were in my favor. Yeah, so this was an interesting run. I don't like having to think. Using my brain is difficult, and this run made me do that, and I don't like that. Fatigue is bad because I have to think. I think that's my final conclusion. Bye.